What's up, guys? Welcome to Upwards with Gordo. Thanks again for tuning in. This is another episode on finance. I love talking about finance, from budgeting to investments to insurance. And this episode, I'm going to talk about wills. Super boring, almost like binary. Like there's not a lot of spectrum in terms of what they can look like or whatever. But that's what this episode's based around. Super important. And hope you guys enjoy listening. There's not even a lot of intro I need to give. I'm just going to start talking about wills. Please get a will. Please listen to this episode. If you have any questions, reach out after the episode. And thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. It means a ton. Thank you. Anyway, to the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. This is Gordo. Today we're talking about more finance stuff, more good stuff that I love talking about. And there's kind of like three legs on a stable financial foundation that I think you kind of have to start off with. So last week I talked about insurance and the kinds of insurance that we have. And this week, this is kind of a binary thing. I mean, insurance, you could say, is binary, as in you should for sure have it. But this is binary in terms of there's not really much to do besides just get one. So the second thing I want to talk about is getting a will. Now, super important. Super important. If you're married, if you're in a committed relationship, that I would just say get a will. I had a will when I was single. I think transitioning from single life, you can kind of argue, how important is it? If you're a single person with no real assets and, maybe extended family or friends that your belongings are going to pass to, probably not that's where it's that's the hard thing with life insurance and a will is when it comes to executing them, you're gone. You're not really going to care that much, I don't think. But I think it's still good to have. If you're, just finished high school and you're just starting the workforce, whether it's after high school or college, having a will probably doesn't matter that much if you're single. But it's not a bad thing. If you have any kind of assets to your name, to know where those things are going to go, gives a bit of peace of mind, especially knowing that those things can go towards people you care about or to organizations or initiatives that you care about, is super nice. But it does cost a bit of money. You can get a will kit and do a will yourself from Staples. To get a lawyer to do it is going to cost a bit of money. But it's still a good idea if you're single. If you're a single person with substantial assets, if you own a home, if you have a sizable, assets can be anything from a stock portfolio to a property to multiple properties, whatever. Again, having that set before you die just removes a lot for the people that you're leaving. Again, you're also dead when it comes time to execute it, so it really might not matter at all. But I think it's definitely prudent. Transitioning from single people to married people, for sure. I think as soon as you get married, you've gotten married, you guys have settled from the wedding, honeymoon, you guys are in the workforce or whatever, just get a will done. Things are going to change, so you're going to have to update it. But I think having it set where you are, I just got to make sure. There we go. Just my power cord wasn't totally plugged into my computer, so I said to make sure I was done. Honestly, just getting a will so that it's set who your assets are going to, that it'll be your spouse, but just having it set so that if, for instance, if you've gotten life insurance and the life insurance pays out, then having that set, you have to set a beneficiary of the life insurance, but having a will set, if you guys have purchased a property together or you have other assets, like you've come into the marriage with assets and you want them to go to your wife or your husband or spouse, and you don't want other people to be able to make a claim on them, just having a will, just like that, kind of buttons it all up, which I think is really important. When you get more complicated, so you have children, you have assets, you have a life insurance policy, like the more people you need to take care of, it doesn't just complicate, like complicate can be a negative word, but it complicates like your living life and it complicates your death life. Again, when you're dead, you don't really care, like you're gone. But I think there's something about like, you know, it once you start having kids, you need to say like who you want them to go to. You want to have that like set up. For most people, most of us aren't going to die while our kids, like while we're having our kids. And so to do these things, you're really like making a worst case scenario, whether it's life insurance or getting your will done. However, I don't know if you've ever like known a family that have like one or both parents have passed away while there's children involved, but it sucks. It like sucks incredibly bad for the people still around to lose this important person or these amazing these important people, that just having a will buttoned up so it's exactly set who's going to go where, to make sure that your children are going to go to caring people that have the ability to take care of them through to adulthood, having funds left behind so that the people taking care of those children, they're not scraping by while they're taking care of them. Like all these things are incredibly, incredibly important. And it's probably like an exponential chart. Like when you're single with no assets, what's the importance of getting a will? Not super high, but if you get a will established, you get some assets in place, and then pass away, you can have it set who it's going to go to. So there's no questions and troubles once you're gone. Like this is all just like making things easier for when you're gone. And I think like, you know what I think? I think we're burdened to people at different points of life. And I think like, and I've had like a number of family members pass away in my life when I've been like younger, and it just never doesn't suck. In fact, the older I get, the more I kind of sense their absence than when I'm younger. And that I see the benefit of being prudent with these things, with something as simple as a will or life insurance, that it's just like you can't overcome the crappiness of losing someone important in your life. And just like doing something small, like having a will or having a life insurance policy, like I guess like as someone who's been left behind by a number of family members I guess lost a lot of people at various ages, it's just like having, I don't know, if some of these people had things in place or taken care of themselves better during life, that they could take care of their own families or whatever after they die, it would just be like, yeah, I don't know, just like leave like a less bitter taste from losing those people in your mouth. And that's kind of what it's about. Like if you're single and you pass away young and your parents are still around, like I haven't lost a child, but from what I understand, you can't come close to the pain that is losing a child. And to have something set up so it's just clear where your stuff goes to when you die is kind of nice. It's just going to help them when they're dealing with so much grief and loss to figure stuff out, and that just exponentially gets more important the more complicated your life is, the more assets you have, the more, whether or not you're in a committed relationship, whether or not you have children that you're responsible for. And it's like, it's one thing to have children you're responsible for. It's another thing to have children with another person and you're leaving those children with that person, that to have things set up so that everything can go tick, 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 and it's all set in place, everything's set for them. I think like, how would I say this? It's like you're gone, so you're not going to care. But I think part of being like a good person is making sure your business is all tied up for after you're gone. Um, it's like, yeah, like there's only like, I think like I'm not going to care when I die that whether or not like I'm just going to be gone. But I think like now I feel the burden, the onus to be a provider for my family, and part of that comes into providing the schematic for what's going to happen if I die. I guess it's when I die, but it's like when I die and if that's at an extremely inconvenient time. Um, yeah, because again, you can't replace someone who's gone. Um, and having something in place, something as simple as a will, so that it can't be contested by people who don't deserve to get what they aren't allocated. I think, and to make sure that people who do deserve things that they're supposed to get is all set, is hyper important. Hyper important. Anyway, and so yeah, you can, I guess based on the complication level, you can go as simple as like getting a will kit from a place like Staples, all the way up to hiring a lawyer to make sure it's all done. My wife, so man, this is super random. I had my will done when I was in college, because the denomination I was a part of, which is this is kind of sketchy in hindsight, kind of like, I don't know how I feel about it, but this dude came through from the financial sector of the Christian denomination I was a part of. And he's like, hey, we do wills completely for free. They're very highly regarded by the government. They were like bragging about how the government or whoever executes these wills says they're better than ones done by lawyers and stuff. And they're like, hey, we'll do it for free. Just like sign this sign up sheet. I'll meet you with you outside of class if you want a free will. And I was like, oh, dang, that sounds pretty good. At that point, my dad had passed away like a year or two previous. And I was like, my dad didn't have a will, and that sucked. I mean, my dad didn't leave us anything. He had no assets to his name. He literally left us $80 cash, $5 in his bank account, plus some mechanics tools and other things. But anyway, I think, so I was like, oh yeah, I'll get my will done. So I moved with this dude, and I basically split it between at the time, my mom and my brother. And then he's like, all right, well, now as like a courtesy, we make a request that you donate part of your net worth towards like the denomination as like a thank you because we're doing this for free. And at the time I was like, yeah, that's fair. And I think I did something like 15%, and I specified the area I wanted to go to, but they're like, yeah, that's where you want to go, but if there's other like needs, you can go there. So at the time I was like, yeah, it's fine. In hindsight though, this is how I feel. Having had a terrible experience with the denomination, I think it's like smart denominationally for them to do this and to do free wills and get these kickbacks from people as a thank you for doing it. But I'm also like, there's just like this gross part of institutional Christianity that feels like they don't care about you. They care about what you can do. They don't care about you. They care about what you can do. And I think in hindsight, it just hasn't sat right with me. So my wife and I, anyway, we didn't go through them. We went through a lawyer, and we got a new will done. My wife didn't have a will, so like we needed to do one that included both of us and everything. And so we set up basically everything, because at the time my wife was pregnant. We're expecting our first kid, and we were like, dang, who's going to take care of our kids if we pass away? Dang, do we have enough life insurance coverage? Questionable. I mean, probably should have some more. But we do have life insurance in place. And we were like, all right, I don't, I guess I won't go into details, but we figured out who would be our ideal person. They said yes. I think we made a secondary person or people or family that if our first choice is also passed away, then there's like a second choice. And then, anyway, and I'll say this, walking through it with like an awesome lawyer was a much better experience than previously. Like you can tell the expertise of a lawyer, who I think is like, because when the denomination's doing it, I think they see the benefit of like, oh, well, this is great for us because when these people pass away, we get these kickbacks that they generously give us. When a lawyer does it, they get to see the execution of it and see like, wow, I can see how that. I mean, I think the denomination can see this too, but I don't think that's their like primary like, yay, this is worked out great. Whereas a lawyer, I think, can be a bit more objective and be like, oh, I can see how important this was to work out. And we had some complications too with because we have some specific assets we had to figure out what is going to happen to what's going to happen to them. And that's where the lawyer was like well educated, did research for us, and said, all right, so my recommendation is like you have this sorted out for your children, your assets, and for these other assets, you do these things instead. Actually, one asset type they recommended don't put something in your will. Have something in writing with the institution holding those assets. So that was helpful. And we just like got it done. And then it was like, great. Now we know if our kids pass away at any point, who's going to look after them. We know if in some worst case scenario where we're gone and those people are gone, there's like a secondary level who will be doing it. Like how the life insurance is specified to go, like all these things. And it's like, I mean, for a young couple to both pass away and leave all their kids, I think is pretty unlikely. But you're not doing it because it's unlikely. You're doing it because the level of crappiness that exists when it does happen it's not just life changing, but it's like it's so massive that it necessitates figuring out what happens in these scenarios, even though it's super unlikely it might not happen. But it does happen. And when it does happen, you sure are glad. The people who are left behind sure are glad when it's taken care of. Anyway, and so this is like kind of the second step, I think, that is very necessary for families to figure out. And so for you watching this, you're going to want to ask, how old am I? Where am I in my life cycle? Like, am I in high school? Am I in college? Am I, breaking into my career? Have I purchased a place? And where do I want all these things to go? How complicated is this? And then you're going to determine like who you want to do that, like how you want to like flesh out this will. And then from there, you're going to determine whether you talk to a lawyer or not. Probably just talk to a lawyer. I mean, it's the easiest. It's expensive, but then it's done right. If you do a will K, you do it wrong, then maybe it just screws up anyway. So definitely recommend like working with a lawyer. And then, having conversations with people that's kind of awkward. Like, hey, I might die one day, unfortunately, early. Would you take care of my kids for potentially years and years, for potentially a couple decades if it happened? And you have to hope they say, yeah. And yeah, but I mean, like, this is also kind of, I think, part of being a mature adult is having these things in place. I think once you start living life with another person, your spouse or committed relationship, I think and I think this is like both people, because I think both people come into a relationship bringing strengths and weaknesses. But I think it's important for both people, whether this is spearheaded by one of the people or both, to like, yeah, just make sure all your ducks are in a row. It's kind of comes with the territory with being an adult. And this is just like one of those things. So it's one of those 3 kind of legs that, man, would I say there's a 4th leg? Maybe there's 4 legs. Because I would say you need insurance, you need a will, you need a budget, you need investments. But, you could kind of argue that goes under like budget, even insurance. If you have a high enough net worth, you kind of self-insure at some point. So anyway, I think I'm going to, maybe I'll do 4 episodes because I could do one briefly on investments. But yeah, getting a will done, super important. Talk to a lawyer, get her done. And, if you have any questions, like, I don't know where to talk. I mean, you can just Google estate lawyer and find someone who can help you with this, and they'll walk you through everything. And again, I think if you're just a single person with no assets, nothing to your name, probably doesn't matter. If you have any kind of complication, you have children, you have life insurance policies, you have a significant other, having a will saves a lot of headache for people in the unlikely and unfortunate scenario of your passing. So that's my recommendation. Get a will. Get life insurance. If you have life insurance, get life insurance today, tomorrow, whatever, ASAP. And if you don't have a will, get a will as soon as possible. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions, comment on this video, reach out to me, and happy to answer questions. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. The more you guys know. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Peace.